This is it, right here. I would say that's a surprise right there, folks. That is a local gem. People don't really know this that much in our area, but we're here today with Mr. Roger Wayne Davis. How you doing, Mr. Roger Wayne?
All right. Hey, how you?
I'm doing great.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, probably it's been, I don't know, 8 or so years ago, I was working on y'all's house.
Yeah.
And somehow I walked by and saw in here, and I asked permission, could I come in here? Because ever since I was, I mean, literally, I've got a picture.
Yeah.
My mom sent me just the other day when I was preparing for this video of me on the floor playing with one of those John Deere tractors, and my dad helping me. I got another picture of me sitting on like the, you know, those pedal ones? Like these.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, right here, I've got a picture of me sitting on one of these, and it's not real clear, but it's lets you know that I've been around tractors my whole life, especially John Deere tractors. So, Mr. Roger Wayne, what in the world got you wanting to just collect them? I mean, why, you know, did you decide that, hey, I want to fix these up?
Well, I had a friend named Jerry Grimsley.
Okay.
And several years ago, he's deceased now. And he got me started in it. We got to riding Ohio and Illinois and all.
So y'all travel the country looking for tractors?
Yeah, we had the contact in Ohio.
Now right here in this building is John Deere tractors. Were y'all riding looking for John Deere specifically, or anything that brought back memories?
Not necessarily, mostly John Deere.
Mostly John Deere?
Mostly John Deere stuff.
So, like right behind us here, just talking about John Deere, I think just in our earlier conversations, you told me this specific John Deere is an original from your...
this is one of my daddy's tractors.
The actual tractor your dad bought?
Tractor. Bought in 1966.
1966?
Yeah,
wow.
I can't remember what he paid for it, but it's a 30-20 years, bought in 1965.
Speaking of a 30-20, my first tractor, even though this was in 1994, my first tractor that I bought, and of course 30-20 was made back in what, the 60s or so?
In the 60s, yeah.
My first tractor paid $7,500 for it, and it was a 30-20 because my dad said that's all I need to do hogs, you know, to grind feed and all that. So I actually have a picture of that one, as a matter of fact, too.
Well, I can remember the 30-20 when I was still in high school.
You were still in high school when your dad bought the 30-20?
Bought the 30-20, and he bought it. It was right before peanut picking time.
Okay.
Now he bought a 30-20 and a super long peanut picker, PTO, for $9,000.
Now he's mentioning super long, and long was the name of an actual peanut picker. Y'all might want to comment about that if you remember the long. My dad had some of those because my dad, when we were farming, we farmed old school even when we were in the 90s. My dad didn't believe in buying big new tractors and all. You remember, my dad, you know, and not wanting to spend a whole lot of money on that. Like he tried to convince me that people who irrigated wasn't ever gonna make no money, that it was all in dry land farming. And you saw that was what put us out of business, is he wouldn't commit to the irrigation. But anyway, I want to go back to this 2020 here. Tell me, how old were you when your dad got this one?
I was probably 16.
16 years old? And you drove this? But you were driving tractors before 16 years old, wasn't you?
Oh yeah, I was driving when I was 12. I would pick peanuts with not that particular tractor, but an older tractor, you know.
Right. And you mentioned the other day when we were talking about the long, you know, brand of peanut picker, there was also one called Benthal.
Benthal, we had a long and a Benthal.
Right.
My dad and my uncle, they had a Benthal, which was the distributorship was in Blakely, where your place of business is. Yeah.
So even Colin knows this story. So at where we're located now at Blakely Feed and Seed, there was an old building that we have now torn down, and there was, and you reminded me, there was an old loading dock there. And he remembers going there when you were a young man to pick up parts and to pick up, and they actually brought Benthal peanut pickers in parts, and they put them together there in Blakely. And that was one of the, not just a dealership, but they were, I mean, they weren't manufacturing it, but they were putting them together.
Yeah, they brought it in there. I think it was like Virginia or somewhere.
Okay.
North Carolina or somewhere where manufacturing place it was.
He had a little funny story. He said that he remembers going up there and Mr. Buck Grice from our town was always around there. And he said, I think he worked there. We'll have to ask that question too, if Mr. Buck Grice actually worked there.
I may be wrong, but I believe it was Buck Grice.
You think it was him? Well, we're gonna have to ask him. Well, let's do a little bit of looking around. This one is obviously special to you because it was on y'all's farm, you know, as well as the 3020. That was your dad's tractor there as well. And obviously, really all of this is about memories and history, you know, and this place here is full of history, and this one is particularly John Deere history, you know. So let's talk about a little bit of the history here. Like we come over here and you were telling me earlier, like this is the 320, but right beside it we got a 330 and we got another 320, but they all look a little different. What is the difference between
that style is a U 320U?
Okay.
And then
the U stands for utility.
Utility. U stand. Then you got 320S stands for standard.
Okay.
And you can tell the difference in the same tractor, it's just built different.
Built a little different.
The U is 10 inches longer and lower to the ground. Than that's higher and shorter.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean.
And see, I think from what I understand from what I've done on like John Deere history and that kind of thing is that you would have the same series for years. Like there would be, like the 320 was made for not just 1 year. It wasn't like in what year was the 320-ish?
55, around 55.
Somewhere in the 50s. But it didn't just happen like the 320 was in 55 and then in 56 they made a brand new model, and then 57 they made a brand new model. With tractors, like even when we were farming, we were dealing with the 4430 and the 4840, you know, and the 30 and the 40 series, but those happened like 7, 8, 10 years apart. You know, it wasn't, you couldn't buy a 40 series when a 30 series was available, and it's similar like with these, right?
Yeah, you didn't see any of these tractors hauling in this area.
Oh, really?
The smaller tractors like this, now
Let's walk down here.
430s, you know, you would, but they are 430s over here. So but the 330, now the 3, as far as value, the collectors, the U is worth a lot more money than the S for some reason.
Oh, okay.
They didn't make as many U's as they did S's.
I got you. But why do you think they weren't as many of these around here? Did we need bigger tractors?
Just smaller tractors, I guess. I don't know. I don't remember them. Now, they could have been. They could have been.
Moving on. Now, this is, you know, you're talking about this big 730 right here.
Yeah.
That's a lot bigger tractor. What year? Do you remember what year these are?
That's a 59 model.
59 model? Yeah. Is this the one that's got the special serial number on it?
Yeah, it's got it's the first one built.
This is the very first John Deere 730 tractor that was built, because the serial number is something like 73000. Does it have a 1 on it, or is it just?
I think it's 0.
We're gonna, Colin, we're gonna get you on looking for that serial number. Where would it be at? Moving on back, we got another 730. But it looks.
That's a standard.
Okay. So this is a standard.
That's a row crop.
Okay, this is a row crop. Okay. Oh, okay. I see it has an R right here at the end of it. Does that have anything?
No, that's just the number of that weight. That's just the number. Yeah. Okay. Part number of that weight.
I got you. Oh, that's for the weight. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And then moves on up, and I assume that the 830 has a little more horsepower.
The 830, that's the only way they made that tractor.
Okay.
It was mainly used in the West, in the wheat country.
Wow. Now, the levers are even, you know, different. What is?
That's the throttle.
That's your throttle.
Hand clutch.
Hand clutch.
John Deere back then, except on the smallest tractors,
right?
They had a hand clutch.
No foot clutch at all?
No, not on the bigger. Now the ones down there we just looked at, the smaller ones, they do have a foot clutch.
Wow, that is unreal. Now you're standing beside my favorite tractor probably of all time, the 4020. You got 2 of these in here.
Yeah, they 4020s, you know, they what brought John Deere out the kinks.
And I'm gonna get up there like I always did. You got a little place right here, and I was on these a lot in my life. You come here, you grab here, and you can enter up on this thing from both sides real easy.
Yeah, the other side will be easier to get up on.
Wow. Actually, I was wrong. You got, is that a 4020 over there too?
That's a 4020.
So you got, he got 3 4020s in here. Man, this feels, this is a, what do they call this? Quadra range or something? Or
Synchro range.
what's that?
Synchro range.
Okay.
Now they had a power shift.
We had a power shift.
Okay.
And that power shift would get me in trouble because it would fly. Of course, you got the foot clutch and you just put it in gear, and every time you bump it up, you didn't even have to use the clutch. You know, you just bump it up and that thing, and I remember when you hit 8th gear on that 4020, it was the fastest thing we had on the farm, but there ain't no shocks on this thing. So I remember near about, you know when you're 12 years old and you drive a 4020 and ain't nobody around, you're gonna try to cut up. It's a wonder I didn't get killed, because ours, like this one, did not have any kind of roll cage or anything. Not to mention, no farmer ever wore a seatbelt back then. I guess we always just figured we'd try to jump off, you know, or something like that. But I remember bumping that thing up and hitting 8th gear, and then getting to hitting some ditches and bouncing and bouncing, and having to hold myself on to keep from being bounced off. But yeah, and then I come right down on this other side, and that was one of the things about the older tractors. You could come up either side pretty easy on a lot of these. Nowadays, you got one door to get in. Sometimes they'll put another door on the other side, like my Kubota tractor I have, and I can't get in on that side very well because you got a lot of levers in the way. A little bit. I remember we had something similar to this, but one of the things that I noticed was this thing would heat up.
Yeah, that
and
got
so
a
it's supposed to be it's supposed to keep the sun off of you, but it was not cooler, in my opinion. And my dad, I don't know if you remember seeing this, sometimes people would mount fans right here. They would just blow the dust out of your face. Or
mount a radio on the fender.
We had a radio. They used to make her, John Deere had a radio that you would mount straight down to the fender. You turn that radio, but you have to have it so loud. I remember we had a radio. The tractor, when you're running like mowing, it was loud already. You got dust in your face, everything. And you had to have that radio up so loud. At the end of the day, this ear right here would be more damaged than this ear, because we weren't wearing earplugs, were we? Now, I always see these in pictures, and I've never drove one, but I would guess that a tricycle tire on the front is gonna make this thing very unstable.
You better not cut it too short going very fast and flip over.
Well, it's like the 3-wheeler versus the 4-wheeler. You remember they banned 3-wheelers?
Yeah.
You know, because that was the whole idea. You turn that wheel like this, and it's gonna want to tip over on you, and that was the same problem that I'm sure that they had back in the days. It wasn't anything that I remember anybody having an accident on, because these were long gone by the time I got there to farming with my dad. We didn't have anything like this. Now,
the 430, the 430 were more popular than I could say than the 3 Series.
Okay.
The 420 and the 430 was in this area.
I remember running a dirt pan, or not a dirt pan, but a box blade for somebody one time. They had one of these, and this was even in the 90s, you know, but it was good for little small utility type stuff and all. And now, is this a gas burner?
Gas.
So that's another thing too, is not every tractor in here burns diesel. You would think most all tractors would be diesel, but this is a gas burner. And I remember one thing about running that tractor for the guy is that I wouldn't ever bog the engine down. It would just turn, the wheels might start spinning, but it was hard to really choke it down. You know, if you had the throttle to it, I could bury that box blade, and then next thing you know, I'm making ruts, you know, whereas today, you know, with some of the foreign tractors, you know, I feel like the engine kind of chokes down a little bit.
You know, John, they're just 2-cylinder engines.
2-cylinder engines?
Yeah, that's really the put, you know.
Yeah, yeah, it has
even the bigger ones over there, they're 2-cylinder.
Right. Wow.
John Deere didn't come out till the 10 Series, like 2010, 3010, 4010, that was 6-cylinder, 4-cylinder.
I guess John Deere's still using a 6-cylinder type engine. I mean, that basically became the
back in when these tractors were in this area, Ford and Ferguson, they were more Ford than Ferguson than they was John Deere.
Now that's what's unreal to me right there, is to understand that in this area right here, there were way more Fords, Fergusons, probably the international and that kind of Farmalls and that kind of thing than there were John Deere's, because now I'd call this John Deere country, you know, but back then it was not necessarily John Deere country. There were John Deere's around, but there was more of those others. Do you know why? I mean, was it because John Deere cost more, or they just weren't as available?
They wasn't, they got a little 2-cylinder engine, see?
Okay.
And these Fords, see, the 600 Fords, you know, they had 4-cylinders, which they's one around there, my wife's granddaddy.
And we're gonna go get to see that in just a little bit.
Yeah, it's over there hooked on that shed of my wife.
Yeah.
Granddaddy bought it in 56.
I want to look at these. I want to look at these bulldozers. I guess we call them. I mean, did they call them bulldozers? Crawlers. Crawlers. They called them crawlers back in the day.
That's what the C stands for.
Oh, okay. So there was an actual model of tractor called an M.
It's an M, just like in the other barn.
And notice, guys, he keeps saying the other barn. We're going to be walking over there in just a minute and let y'all see that.
M is the size it was of the tractor.
Size M.
It's a tractor with tracks and steering clutches. That's all it is.
I got you.
It's just like an M, just like that one.
Yeah.
That's a 420.
So that's a 420 tractor, but it's got tracks on it.
It's that 420 tractor there with tracks and a blade and steering clutches.
Man, and this one had a blade, I guess.
It did.
I got you.
That one got a 3-point hitch on it.
Now that's Colin,
kind of rare.
Have you ever seen a bulldozer with a 3-point hitch?
Yeah. Well, that tractor, that crawler I bought from a guy in North Georgia, got 500 and some odd few hours, original hours on it.
I'm gonna let Micah in just a minute get us close up.
Yeah.
That thing, I ain't got my glasses, 561 original hours on it.
Yeah.
That's unreal.
Original hours, original pads and all.
You mind if I get up on it?
It ain't going nowhere.
Yep. I'm afraid I might go somewhere.
It's hard to get in and out of there.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Man.
That doesn't look comfortable.
Well, honestly though, for a short guy like me, it ain't that bad, to be honest with you. So obviously this is your steering.
It's got a foot clutch too.
So because it's basically a tractor, you gotta have a clutch.
It's a basic 420 tractor.
Okay.
Except it's got tracks, blade, and steering clutches.
Now is this your throttle?
That's the throttle.
Man, I swear, back then I think safety was not really a concern. Getting the job done was a concern because I'm sitting right here by a cylinder.
Yeah.
Right by my left hand that is gonna close up when that brake. If you was wearing something a little bit long or you had your hand over here, you may get a pretty good hand smash right there on that one. And I see you got different gears, so you had to have a clutch to get them in there. Man, that's all right there. I guess I want to walk over and check out some even older tractors. I know what's in that other barn too, and I think you guys are gonna like it.
This was my wife's granddaddy bought this tractor new in 1956.
So, again, history, so his wife, Miss Jo, this was her daddy's tractor, right?
Well, her granddaddy's tractor.
That was her granddaddy's tractor.
Yeah.
So this is a model
640
600 series, so 640. Man, and y'all looks like you're still using this one.
Yeah, I plant my little sunflower patches around with it.
That, to me, is one of the best things about these old tractors is that a model like this right here, as old as it is, will still actually go out and do food plots and like he's planting sunflower seed, I guess, for the doves and things like that. Yeah. But pretty amazing that it's still on the farm. I'm guessing what year did he probably purchase this?
1956.
One thing I forgot to ask you in there, this was interesting. What do you think he paid for this tractor?
Probably $2,000.
$2,000?
I don't know.
I remember asking you earlier when I was visiting that 30. No, you said that 20.
Yeah, I can't remember what Daddy paid for it. But, but I know the 3020.
The 3020.
But the peanut picker.
He bought a peanut picker and the 3020
for $9,000.
$9,000. Y'all check the market today on a brand new peanut picker, which of course that was a two-row peanut picker. And then and the 3020's probably got 70, 80 horsepower. 70 horsepower. Yeah. So check on a 70 horsepower tractor online, and that thing's going to run 60, 70,000 easy. According to what model you get. If you go with John Deere and you get a bigger series, you're talking over $100,000. And a peanut picker, but now y'all don't run two rows anymore.
No, it's 6-row picker. They 200 or better now.
So a 6-row peanut picker costs the farmer over $200,000 these days. That is But you know what's crazy about that is the prices of the commodities are very similar now as they were back then.
You're right.
And that's the amazing thing to me, that the prices has not really changed on the commodities hardly at all. In some cases have gone down, but the price of equipment has gone up. Of course, you're getting a lot more technology with these things, and you can get a higher yield, being able to set the planting ratio and all these different things. But so let's go over and check out the other tractors in this barn. There's going to be actually some even older ones. Let's go check them out. I remember coming out one day and this was sitting out in the front. Y'all were cleaning it up, working on it. But this one right here is a beautiful thing to me. And you told me earlier that one of the things you do, not necessarily first, but you got to have good tires on these things to make them look good. And you'll notice all your tractors have good tires.
Would you bought a tire lately?
I hadn't bought one of these tires lately, but my son Colin, you just bought 4 tires for your truck, and you said they were how much?
$1,600. I took a loan out from the bank. Had to.
I put tires on all these tractors. That was years ago when they were a lot cheaper.
That's right.
I probably couldn't do it today.
You think this thing's over $500, just one tire right
here? I wouldn't doubt it.
Yep. And this is actually a Goodyear tire here. But look at this. This is a Ford 861. Now, is this considered the Jubilee or not?
No, Jubilee was come before the 600.
Before the 600.
Yeah, Jubilee come in like 53.
You can see I have not done my homework on these things, but I remember the Ford Jubilee.
They had a Jubilee and then they had a Golden Jubilee.
Okay.
Okay. Then they come out with the 600 series, 640.
And this is an 861. Look at, we'll get B-roll of this later, but this emblem right here is just beautiful. But you said that now this particular model, they've got places on the internet and online.
You can get,
you can actually
still get parts, reproductive parts.
Right.
You might could pick up some at a salvage yard.
Now, is this one of those tractors that's hard to crank, or it'll start right up?
Oh, it'll start right up. We got to put a hot battery in it, it will.
Yeah, I got you.
That's another thing you can't keep back. You bought a battery lately?
And one thing about these tractors, just like any vehicle or anything with an engine in it, tires, things like that, if you don't run them on a regular basis, you're gonna have problems with them.
Yeah.
We were looking at some the other day, and there's some oil leaks, and he hadn't even been running them. Water leaks and different things like that, and that just happens. And I think that's kind of like our bodies. If we don't exercise them, if we just sit around and do nothing, our bodies will do the same thing.
Yeah, you come out here sometime, there'll be a seal leaking, because I don't crank them like I should.
Right.
Carburetor will be gummed up.
Now, you told me this one was already kind of fixed up a little bit before
I bought this tractor just like you see it.
Gotcha. Wow.
From a local farmer here in the county. I bought it from Mr. Charles Baudry.
Yeah.
Before he passed away about
a
year ago, couple years ago.
Definitely knew the Baudrys down in Middle County for sure. Now, over here is and I've already asked you, and I keep forgetting these series and how it works, but I see over here we've got, the D series tractor over here. Now we're back in that letter series, and these tractors came out before the 420s and the, those types of tractors, right? They were.
Oh yeah, these come out in this tractor here is a 36 model.
A 1936 model tractor.
That's what they call a B on style.
I got you. Now, is that diesel?
No.
Gas.
It's gas.
They were running gas until they came out.
I'll show you some diesels in that other barn. There's a few diesels in this barn, older ones.
Right. So this is before they were even using letters or numbers. Is that right? To describe. But then, and same way here.
That's an A.
Oh, this is a Model A.
That's an A on style.
Okay. And then this is a D.
That's a D on style.
And they were created around the same time. It's just that the D meant something different, like size. Is that right?
Yes, just a different style. This particular tractor comes from Ohio.
Wow. And it's got a PTO right beside your leg. Wow. Like I said earlier, safety was not a consideration. I mean, I guess they tried, but they don't have the safety features we do. Literally right here, guys, there is a PTO shaft that is right under me. I mean, I'm talking about if I had on loose clothing during the winter.
You fall off back there.
if I fell off right here and that PTO was spinning, it's gonna be real bad for me. Now,
yeah,
man, I am not used to, and again, a hand clutch, I guess. Is this what that is?
That's a hand clutch.
Okay. I can't imagine trying to hit the, I'm so used to using my feet. Okay. This feels really strange sitting way back behind the back tires.
Yeah.
I mean, that is, I think I'd like to drive that thing in a
guess
parade.
it's better than walking behind a mule.
Oh, it's definitely better than walking behind a mule. I'm pretty sure about that. Colin, you gotta check this out, man. It feels awkward. Come back here and sit on that.
I'm talking about the diesel, the R.
The R?
R is the first diesel John Deere built.
Yep, got it written right on the side.
Yeah.
The R is the first diesel.
And it's actually got a little gasoline motor here, what they call a pony motor.
Okay.
The starting engine. You got to crank it. You got to crank it before you can crank the diesel motor.
And here again, kind of sitting behind the tires on this thing. You know, I'm not as bad as I was on that one. Colin, go get on that tractor, man. I want you to see, I want you to feel the way it feels. It's just, it's odd. Like it feels like so much engine, you know, in front of me. But this one, I feel a little more safe on this one, but I don't know how, I don't believe they planted stuff with it. They didn't cultivate with this, did they?
No.
Because hard to see what you'd have a hard time seeing.
Mainly preparing ground, the dirt, you know.
That's right. So you'd be pulling bottom plows and things like that with this guy. What do you guess the horsepower is on this?
I think it's probably 60 or 70 horsepower.
There's no telling how strong that thing really is, because I bet the weight
But it's still two-cylinder diesel.
So does it have that kind of a put type sound?
A little bit. Not like the gas, but it's got some put to it.
Right. So like we were talking about the Farmall, this was more popular, he said, in this area than the John Deere, at least for...
Probably, yeah.
In what year? Like what year were people using these?
Oh, it was in the 50s.
It was in the 50s? Yeah. And they saw a lot more of these Farmalls than they did the John Deere, he said. You said you sold most of your Farmalls.
Yeah, I don't have a two left. I have an A and a cub over there. Small.
An A and a cub. And that's just, he said at one point he had so many tractors in both barns that you just had to squeeze through like this.
I had 70 some odd at one time, and I think I got about 45 now.
Goodness gracious. How many years have you been farming? Like, I mean, don't count when you were farming when you did it. I'm saying when you went out on your own.
This is my 58th peanut crop.
This is your 58th peanut crop. Now, we've already kind of looked at something real similar to this one. But the hubs, not the hubs, what we call this, the wheels, those are spoked over there.
That's your older model. That's your unstyled with the spoke wheels.
Okay.
The A and the B.
Right.
This is a BWA.
Okay. A BWA, it says 1941 right here. And this added weight, I assume, you know, a good bit of weight compared to the spoke models. Now this one here is unique, and I always kind of wondered about these, because you know the Farmall comes a lot of times has this kind of thing here. And are you good? I mean, you just cultivating land as far as
that's just 2-row cultivator.
Okay. So the rows were that far out?
Yeah, like 36. That's the same thing we grow today, 36.
That's right. It just looks mighty wide. I guess you could adjust them, you know. But here again, this is one reason for the tricycle, you know, because they had your tire here to go between a row. This would go between a row, and then here where your plows are would be getting weeds out. Nowadays, you don't even have to do that anymore, because you got all this.
You got chemicals now.
You got chemicals now. So at some point, we went from real hard manual labor and getting out there. I do remember to go out when I was young. That was one of the things my dad must not have liked to do. So he'd put me out there. And like on Patrick Shiver's channel, you'll see, he always points out at the auction, he said, a lot of people don't know what this is right here, but it's a row marker. And on the 4020, we had did y'all use row markers? Mm-hmm. You drive and you look down at that row marker and it just keeps you going the same way. Well, when you're 12 or 13 years old and your dad brought you a good lunch and you ate it up under a pecan tree, it's hard to stay awake about 2 o'clock. I can remember getting in some big trouble by not watching that row marker and getting a little sleepy and
Yeah,
easing over. And the problem then is we were doing 6 rows, and that meant 6 rows went down, and you cut 6 rows out. And of course, you know, I'd come back to, and I think about all the dangers, things that could have happened, but times have changed, folks. Times have changed.
So, change it every day.
It does. It changes every day. And another Ford. Man, you've just got an incredible selection here. And then the Massey Ferguson, man. That was another.
Ferguson, you know, and there was a lot of 65 Fergusons around.
Yep.
35s. And
my step granddad, my granddad passed away when I was like a year old, and my dad's mother, Miss Jeanette Brown, she married a guy named Tamp Ferguson, and he had an old Massey Ferguson. I remember that was the first time I'd really ever, because we didn't have those on our farm. I remember he drove something similar. It might have been a newer model, but yep. I think there's still a lot of Massey Fergusons around, but they're usually this age.
Yeah, back in 62, 63, my wife's daddy had four of them tractors. And they worked about the same amount of land that we work today.
Really?
How? I don't know. But they had to work.
Manual labor.
They had to plow 12 months out of the year.
Is that right? People aren't as willing to work as much these days, I don't think. You know? Yeah. That's pretty amazing.
I don't know how. Like I say, 4 of them tractors to work this farm.
This whole.
The
how
whole
many acres?
Farm, and you know, some smaller ones, smaller tractors.
About how many acres you talking about?
At the time, it was probably 2,500 acres.
2,500 acres with tractors like this right here?
Yeah.
That's unreal. That is unreal.
And now we don't work with about 3,000 and got about
big $100,000 equipment.
6 tractors cost $400,000 a piece, but you can go out there and do our work what them did in a day.
Goodness, that is just, times have changed, that is for sure. Well, Mr. Roger, I really appreciate I appreciate this interview. This is incredible. And I hope you guys really enjoyed that too. And honestly, what we'd really like to see you do is comment about this. I'm sure this has brought back some memories. Just share with us some memories that you have, like maybe on a farm that you're, raised on, or maybe the farm that you have now. Maybe some of you are still using stuff like this for small farms, and we'd like to know about that. But as far as this session goes, that's a wrap.